So this is the Printrbot Play, and it is a 3D printer that prints PLA filament. I think you can upgrade it and print ABS with a heated printing bed, and I'll get to that later. So as you can see, there's the spool of filament. It came well packaged. I ordered it from a place in Canada. It's $399 American. I'll post a link to where it was purchased from in the comments below. The stickers on it are ones that I threw on it. It didn't come with it, obviously. It's completely made out of metal, so that's really nice, so nothing really moves around on it. It can print objects 4 inches by 4 inches by 5 inches. You can check out the specs on the website, but I'm just going to give you my overall impressions of this printer so far. I've been using it just over a week, and I've printed out a bunch of stuff, and I'm starting to get my head around 3D printing, and it's really cool. Really great for prototyping or making small parts if you're into that type of stuff as a hobbyist. Doesn't come with a power switch. I put my own power switch on it. There might be a reason why they don't do that, because of depending on how your power's hooked up in your mains in the house. Okay, so it comes with an unheated printing bed. The extruder is a 0.4 millimeter hot end, which is terminology that I'm just starting to understand, but the hot end is this thing right here. Hopefully the lighting here isn't the best. Got a flashlight here. So that's the hot end there. So the extruder, the filament comes out of there, and what happens, let's focus back in here. What happens is this moves in an x-axis, or yeah, x-axis, and this moves in a y-axis. This bed actually moves back and forth, which can give this a smaller form factor, I think. And then your z-axis, obviously, there's a stepper motor in behind here, well, a couple stepper motors, and it moves this unit up and down. So this does this way, and the print bed goes back and forth this way, which gives you 3 axes of motion. The size, it's 11 inches by a foot by around 5 inches, I believe. That's right. Yep, 5. But, however, you do need a little bit more room because this bed moves back and forth. Okay, so it doesn't have a heated printing bed. There's an upgrade for it so that you can print ABS. You need a heated printing bed to print ABS, and what I've learned now for those of you who are just getting into 3D printing, which is probably why you're looking at this, so I'm going to give you a completely newbie's point of view of 3D printing, because I've only been doing this for like a week, is that PLA is pretty forgiving in the sense that it doesn't need a heated printing bed to get okay print results. Now, I have realized that a heated printing bed can come in handy for printing objects that don't cool at an even rate, or that aren't designed very well. I've downloaded things off of Thingiverse, so if you've done any searching, you probably have come across that site. People share different models that they've designed, and you can just print them off, which I've printed off a bunch of stuff. So anyways, the printing bed, you need to coat it with masking tape. They recommend masking tape, or there's another metal type of tape that you can use. And some people even use glue or hairspray to hold stuff down, now that I've been doing a little bit more research on it. Okay, the printer itself, back to it. The filament loads up here on this arm, which I had to install. That was the only thing I had to install. It's really easy to put together. When it came, it was all, or I should say, there was barely anything to put on except for that arm. It comes with 2 Allen wrenches, subscription to, I think, AutoCAD 360, a little bit of filament. It comes with a little bit of clear filament, about that much, and a power supply and a USB cable, and that's about it. Now, to load the filament in this is quite interesting. I'm going to shut it off here. You can load it without looking at it once you get used to it, because you have to load it into the extruder. And this design is a little odd. They should put a little window here, but that's the unit there. And you push down on this. It's kind of hard to do with one hand, but you push down on this handle here, and that releases the tension on the filament, and then you can pull it out. Now, trying to feed that through can be difficult because you got to get it all the way down into this here. I was able to do it now with a little bit of trial and error without taking the shroud off, but it would be nice if it was a clear spot there. So, anyways, a minor complaint. So I'm gonna fix this up and come back. Okay, I got the shroud back on. I'm gonna flick it on. So this seems to be a really great printer for the price. So in my humble opinion, from just using it a bit, just trying to get into 3D printing, that it doesn't cost much, it doesn't take up much room. I don't have a very big house, so it's nice that I can sit it in the corner here and I can just let it print away. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the software and my experience with getting it set up right out of the box. It was pretty simple. When I opened the box, it came with, right on top, it had a piece of paper that said to go to their website before doing anything else, because it shows you how to unbox it, and then how to hook it up to the computer, download the software. Really straightforward from Printrbot. So I'm going to go over to the computer, and I have the software that they tell you to use is something called Cura up there. You can see it. I'm not going to bother to do screen capture. I'm just going to show it on the camera here by holding it, because it's just I'm just going to do a quick demo. But anyways, in here you can change all the settings, and when you install the software, and it's actually by MakerBot, which is interesting enough because I guess maybe it's some type of open source software. What Cura is it's a slicing software, and what that allows you to do is to open STL files, which are a standard file for 3D, I guess 3D prototyping. It's not necessarily for 3D printing because they use it for other additive manufacturing processes. So when you load this software up, you have this 3D space here, and this isn't for designing. This is strictly for printing. And what it does is that you can set the different various settings for what you print, like the thickness, the how much fill you want inside, because it doesn't print solid for certain objects, and I'll get to that in a bit when I show you some of those objects that I've printed. So you can set everything in here to temperature, depending on what you're using to print. Follow their instructions. It was really simple, so I'm not going to bother to get into that. So I'm going to load a file here, and I'm just going to try printing a hook. And I designed this hook in 123D Design, that's by AutoCAD. So there's different software out there that you can design stuff with, so I'm not going to bother to get into that stuff. It's relatively easy or hard depending on how complex your models are. I am going to now print this. So up here I'm going to print with USB, and I just click on it and it opens this, and this I can use this to move the head around, so I can make it go up. You'll hear it like right there. So every time I click on it, see, it's moving up, and I can extrude filament to unclog it, or to get some of the old filament out if I'm switching colors and whatnot. In here I can set the temperature and all that good stuff. Typically PLA prints at 210 Fahrenheit, and as you can see here, it'll start warming up as I set that temperature. See, it's going up, 66, 74. So once that gets up to 210, I'm going to click print right now, but I'm going to click print. The temperature is going to climb up to 210. When it hits 210, it'll start printing, and that temperature is set on this screen here. But again, follow their instructions. In fact, once you install this software, the newest version of Cura, it has a Printrbot Play profile that already sets it all up, and you can just start printing objects and start tailoring it to the way, depending on your object, but it really gets you going quickly. I was up and running printing in like 5 minutes, realistically. So it was pretty simple. Okay, we're getting up there, 193. And then once it hits the temperature, the printer will go. So again, you're loading an STL file. This is an STL file I loaded, and it was that simple. I went on Thingiverse and downloaded, I like Doctor Who, and there's like a character or a monster in it called Weeping Angel, and I downloaded that. You might have saw it if you're a follower, a subscriber on my channel. It came up maybe on your feed if you're subscribed to me. And I had some failures with it, but eventually I did get it to print, and you can see a time lapse of that on my channel if you're interested in that. There, the printer's moving now, so it does a check. Now it'll start printing. Now I'm going to cut back once it's done printing because it's kind of not very interesting to see this print. And this will take about 5 minutes because it's only a very simple hook. But let me see if I can just zoom in here. But yeah, there it's going. It's adding, adding layers to it. But I guess while it's printing, maybe I'll talk about some of the failures I've had in my experience so far. So this here is a little GPS holder that I was trying to print for a friend, and I downloaded this, or they found it on Thingiverse. And as you can see, the filament is all apart. I'm not going to focus in on this very well, but it's all shredding apart because, that's just focusing there, because it got off kilter and it curled. So when it was laying on the print bed, the rate of cooling, as I mentioned before, because it's not a heated print bed, these edges cooled at a different rate because it's a really thin profile here on the bottom, and it caused it to pop off of the print bed. Whereas I've printed a whole bunch of other stuff and had any problems. It's just that this in particular one I've had a lot of problems with. I've tried it twice now. I might have to add a base or something to it in order to get it to work, which you can do with some of the software out there. If you download a profile, you can edit an STL. Now I'm gonna set up and show you some of the other things I've printed. Okay, here's some stuff I've printed. You can hear the printer still in the background going away printing that hook. This is a phone holder that I printed. I designed in 123D. This is one of the first things I've designed. It's very simple geometry, and I printed it upright like this. So, as you can see, phone holder. Nothing fancy. That's about it. That's all it is. Phone holder. But kind of neat. I created it myself. Works well. It's light. Probably good for traveling. This here, and now I printed it in brown, so it's kind of hard to see even with my light here. But this is a church in Italy, in Florence, and I did 2 copies of it, but unfortunately because it's brown you can't make out all of the detail. It doesn't show up really well on the camera. Maybe here some. But one was printed at 0.25 for the layer height, and that's kind of sets what your resolution is. And I think the printer can go from 0.6 for really fine prints all the way. You can do really fast printing at 0.25 of a millimeter. So everything's in millimeters. This was done in 0.25, this one here, as you can see. And then this one here, it's a little finer. The lines are closer together. So that's the layer height going back and forth as the extruder, the hot end, is adding layers. So this one was done at 0.1. This one here is done at 0.25. I'm going to do a 0.6, which is really, really high res. and see how that comes out. But so far, I've been quite happy, because this print here took like, and as you can see, it's not huge. This print here took like 5 hours, 4 to 5 hours, and I think this one took like 2 hours. Because again, because it's, you know, it's got to do more layers. Oh, sorry, this one here took around 2 hours, and this one took like 4 hours, just because there's just more layers that had to go back and forth. So anyways, so that's just something around resolution. But this here is the Weeping Angel that I mentioned earlier, and it fell over. And like I said, there's another video on my channel that you can see a time lapse of it falling over. And what happened was this detached because the base was rocking back and forth, and because it was getting tall and this bottom part was small, it fell over. But as you can see, this was printed at 0.1, and it's really good. It's really smooth. So the printer can do a really good job so far. And this is some prototype I did of another Weeping Angel that I traced out, and so it's kind of, so I printed that flat, and I had some good luck with being able to print this because it's all consistent. It didn't have any problems with it lifting off of the bed. Now I want to talk, I'm going to go back over to the printer and just mention one thing. When you're printing items that are tall like this object, so this was on here, this movement of this print bed of the y-axis of it going, back and forth like this, back and forth, back and forth, it caused this to rock loose. Now, had it had a bigger base on the bottom, it probably would have been okay. Or if it had a heated printing bed to keep this adhered, so to the printing bed. So those are just some things that I've learned now as I've dipped my feet into 3D printing. Overall, I really like this printer so far. It's really cool, and for the price to get into 3D printing, it's really, in my opinion, a pretty good buy. I'll mention about the 3D filament. That's 1 kilogram, and it's around, I think Canadian, it was like $28, $30 maybe. There's suppliers in China you can order it from. I'm not sure what it costs in the States, but I'm sure it's like everything else, cheaper than in Canada. Yeah, so that's about it. I'll just mention some other things that might have come in the box with it. It came with a micro SD card to do a test print, and there's a little USB port here for troubleshooting to make sure that your printer works. It came with a micro SD card. I read that in instructions. I haven't done it because I got the printer working fine. Yeah, that's about it. So let's wait for this to finish, and then we'll see how it is. I also forgot to mention the inside of this object. Well, this is the Weeping Angel. It doesn't print completely solid. You can tell it to print solid, but it would take, you know, a lot of filament. And what it does is it slices it, and it adds this honeycomb structure inside. So that's really cool. That's what that Cura program does for you with that STL file. So you can change the settings in there to change the thickness of the skin. I think I mentioned that when I had the software open or up on screen. So, and you can change all of this, the density of the fill. They call this, I think, fill. So that's kind of neat. So that's one thing interesting about this failing, is at least I was able to show what it looks like on the inside. And when it's printing, it's pretty cool. It's going across and back and forth and doing all that. So it's quite remarkable. So I want to mention something about filament real quick. This one here hasn't been opened yet, but as you can see, it's vacuum sealed. They want to reduce the chance of humidity, and the filament absorbs water over time. And inside there's even a little pack of those silica beads that they use, like, you know, you can get shoes or stuff in, or electronics, so it absorbs moisture. So what they recommend you do after you open your filament is to store it in like those vacuum bags that you use for storing clothing. I have yet to get any yet, so when I do, I'll vacuum up. For now, I just put them in a Ziploc bag, like this guy over here. It's just in a Ziploc bag with the silica beads. It's winter right now, so the humidity isn't even that high, so it'll be more of an issue in the summer. But what I was able to pick up and I've used it before for absorbing water, is silica crystals cat litter. And a whole bag of this will last like forever. And I just got it at the grocery store. So it's, you can see it's this blue stuff, bluish white. So I'm gonna put some of that into some cheesecloth and throw it in with my when I get the vacuum bags to vacuum it out. So that's Filament. So it's almost done printing. Get some light here on this. And that's it. When it's done printing, it puts it out so you can grab it. Now I'm going to just put down my other light here. So some tools also for, it's good to have a putty knife, as you saw earlier. At least I think I showed it earlier. And I found a dental pick is nice. Sometimes if there's loose strands, I can grab them before it makes a mess on the print, if there's anything going astray. So this, I use it to peel off the item. I got a little bit of warping on this because it's kind of flat, but not too bad. So there you go. It's this is a wiring hook. So put some double-sided tape and fix it to something, and then I can put zip ties and tie up wire to it. So yeah. Okay, so that's pretty much overall my review of the Printrbot Play. I really like it. Good price, as I mentioned before. I know I've repeated myself a few times. So I really like this printer, and I was able to get it up and running, like I said, really quickly. So overall, really nice machine in my opinion, and affordable, at least to, you know, just the average person who doesn't want to make a big investment into 3D printing. You're not going to print the largest things, but certainly you'll be able to learn a bit about it and have some fun trying to design some stuff. So thanks for watching. If you have any comments or questions around this printer and I can try to help you answer, just post them in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks for watching. So this is an addendum to the video real quick. I'm just going to add on to the end here. I did a print of this Colosseum that I got off of Thingiverse, and it did a really great job. And I printed this at 0.06 millimeters, so you know, smaller than, more resolution than 0.1 millimeter. And it did a great job. Everything's really nice and smooth. I don't know if it picks up on the camera. There's some lines obviously, but like all around here, the detail is really nice. The guy who designed this did a great job, and yeah, this is really cool. So I had a little bit of warpage. I lifted off the bed a little bit, but overall came out really well. I think also they say to clean the print bed with some acetone as well, so I might do that just to make sure to clean off any fingerprints or grease from my hands. So, okay, just wanted to add that at the end here.